Hey everybody, and welcome back to Investment Honey, where we talk about various crypto projects. As always, just a reminder, I'm not your financial advisor. I do not provide investment advice on the channel ever, and nothing that we talk about on the channel is to be considered as investment advice. Okay, so with that being said, I know it's been a minute since I have recorded a video on the channel. I figured it was time to re-engage the YouTube platform, and in the past, primarily the content that's been on this channel has been, private sales, pre-sales, that kind of stuff, and kind of navigating, how you look at that. But I want to take a different direction, on the channel, and really want to focus on, the big question, which is how do you find tokens early, before they start moving on their market caps. So that seems to be a big question on the minds of many, that get into crypto, and Dexscreener is really a great tool, for that. I've been experimenting and using Dexscreener, for a while, and I feel like I've got a pretty good handle, on how to go ahead and navigate it, at least for the primary purposes of trying to find stuff early, and we're not always going to be right, when it comes to that. We're not always going to, catch those, big ones, like at the time of recording this video, the tokens that are really kind of taken off that everybody knows about, Chill Guy and Peanut. Chill Guy, I believe at the time of doing this video, is still sitting at over a $400 million market cap. So crazy. And when you look at the chart actually kind of stayed flat, for about 3 days before it actually, took off on its parabolic run. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and take a look at, Dexscreener. We're going to take a look at the filters. We're going to take a look at the charts, communities and Telegram, see what's going on there. And at the end of the day, look, a lot of what we're going to do, it's not necessarily considered a strategy per se. It's really just all about research. And so in research, sometimes, like I said before, you get it right, sometimes you don't. So, but it's going to increase our chances, to try to find stuff early, So an example of that, I'm going to take you over to Telegram real quick, to the Crimson Calls channel. Okay, so this is the call channel that's associated with Investment Honey. This token, if you look at the call, is called Glamorous or Glam. I found this in Dexscreener at 499K. And obviously you can see down here that it did an 8x. So it went from 499K to 4.1 million on their market cap. This was a token that was found using Dexscreener, and what I'm going to show you, in Dexscreener, as we continue to go ahead and do these videos, day after day. At least I'm going to try to get on as often as possible, each day, at least once a day, to basically take a look at, some tokens and see, what are we looking at that looks kind of interesting. And I'm not going to advise you, hey, go ahead and get into this one. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is we're going to go through it. We're going to take a look at the tokens, specifically on Solana. We're going to also look at Ethereum. And if you see something, and we'll open some tabs up. If you see something you think is interesting, put it on a watch list, and start watching it. We're going to have those conversations, where you can kind of, as we're navigating this, you can kind of go ahead and see what looks interesting to you and look at something that maybe you want to jump into yourself, obviously if you choose to participate. So we'll also take, since some of you may not be familiar, with the Crimson's Calls, call channel, we'll look at the stats, from SpyDefi. SpyDefi is, what's used to track the calls that are called on that call channel. Before we head back over to talking about, the content of the day, which is Dexscreener. It does take a little bit, just to go ahead and load the stats, but once it loads, we'll be able to go ahead and see, exactly what the tracking looks like. So here we go, and you can see the consistency is sitting at 51%, alpha calls 9, the best call did a 301x, the last call, which is Glam, did an 8.9x. You can see the achievement calls 192 were achievement calls 184, which equates to that 51% consistency rate, and you can kind of see, the last 5 calls here. You can see what the X counter is, 8.9. This one did a 1.3, and the last 3 here did a 2.4, 2.9, and 2.7. So, and it gives you some additional data here, and the top 3 calls done on the channel, 301x, 168x, and a 166x. So, with that being said, that's that's not where I want to go. That's what's going on there as far as SpyDefi and what's going on with the call channel per se. So, if some of you were kind of wondering, like, what's the call channel about? the call channel. That way you don't have to wait on the videos. If I go ahead and I make a call on that call channel, if you're a subscriber to the call channel, and the links, check the description always, for the links there, for the call channel and for the trading bot link as well. You'll be able to see the calls, as they are made, and then you can go ahead and engage with those, as you see fit, for yourself. So with that being said, let's go back to Dexscreener. Obviously, this is where you want to be, dexscreener.com, okay? And a lot of this stuff is just kind of noise. We're not going to really focus on a bunch of the stuff over here. We don't need to, or the stuff up here, okay? When you come in, our primary focus is going to be focusing on the filters. Now, I do like to go over here, excuse me, just to kind of get some of this other stuff out of the way. I don't really care, about the price. So I'm going to show you some stuff that I check off that I don't really want cluttering, this main view over here. Transactions, I get rid of volume, I get rid of makers. I like to keep the 5 minute, 1 hour, 6 hour, and 24 hour checked. Liquidity, I don't really care about, because, we're going to leave it at 1,000 on the liquidity, and everything we're going to look at will likely have more than $1,000 in liquidity, but you could adjust this as you see fit. Okay, so these are the things that I keep. I keep age, I keep the time frames, 5 minute, 1 hour, 6 hour, 24 hour, and I keep market cap. And then I'm going to go and apply, and it's going to change our view. Okay, so we can see a bunch of that other stuff. It has been removed. All right, so I'm going to also make this a little bit bigger. So I don't know. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so actually we'll go down one so I can still get to the filters here. All right, so we can see we've got a bunch of different tokens here. And guys, I know I'm going through some introductory kind of stuff. We won't be doing that, every time we do a video. Okay, but this for the first one, as we get moving, with this, I'm just kind of, giving you guys some additional information that I'm not going to, cover in the next videos. All right, in the next videos, I plan to just go ahead and fire up the video, and we're just going to go straight into the filters, and then we're going to just start looking at tokens. All right, so here we can see in filters, we get all platforms, and we can see that they're covering all the different chains, right? So, but like I said, we're just going to focus on Solana and Ethereum. Now, if I were to check both of these and click save, it doesn't give me any options here as far as the DEX is concerned. But if I go ahead and uncheck one, okay, so we're just going to save Solana, then it'll give me options here, for the DEXs. And I just, I tend to focus on Radium. I can't tell you, anything about the rest of these. I don't really care about them. So that's just, how I operate when it comes to this, so, we'll just go ahead and we'll focus on Solana for now. Liquidity, let's go ahead and let's keep the liquidity at 1,000. All right, market cap and FDV, I always think of these the same, so you only need to fill in, one or the other, whether you prefer to, fill in values for market cap, or if you prefer FDV, that is up to you entirely. But I tend to just stick with market cap. So, and I, think that, 50K, if a token can get to 50K, hold on a minute, I got to go ahead and just clear my throat real quick. I'm a little under the weather, so I'm still trying. I got this little bit of a groggy voice, but either way, with that being said, that aside, I think if a token can get to 50K, that's a token worth taking a look at, so I always tend to start, with, in this market cap value, starting at 50,000. And then I put in different values. Sometimes I do 100K, sometimes it's 250, sometimes it's 500, sometimes it's 1 million, sometimes it's 5 million. Just depends on what I am trying to see. Okay, but if I go 50,000 to 5 million, it's going to give me a boatload of tokens. I don't want to see that many. I want to compartmentalize a bit. So I tend to start, by basically chunking this out. So I'm going to go to 100,000. All right, and pair age. So this is how long has the token been live. If you're looking for new tokens, you probably, and Dexscreener, the way it works is that's not going to do anything under an hour. So I tend to start, if I'm looking for something that's really, really new, 1 hour to 6 hours. Okay. And there are other values that I tend to enter. Sometimes, if I'm hoping, that it's been able to go ahead and survive that initial rush, of buys, typically you see, on a fresh launch, then I may be looking for something that's, 8, where I may put in a value of 8, to 24 hours. If I'm looking for something that's been alive for at least a couple of days, and typically with a lot of those tokens, you may see some kind of bottomed out charts. But if you still have buy pressure, taking place, that can be a good indicator that it could start to be indicating an uptrend. So I may put in something like 24 or 48 hours, seeing that token's been at least able to stay alive for 2 days, and there's still maybe some buy pressure going on. But again, you still have to look at the charts. So 48 hours to maybe 72 hours, or this could be, maybe I'm looking for something that's been able to last at least 10 days. I know 120 hours is 5 days. So 240 hours, which would be, our 10 days, right? So, these are different values that you can put in terms of the age, and what's the thinking, the thought process behind why you would use a certain, minimum value here for pair age and a certain maximum value for pair age. Okay. So again, if we're looking for something that's new, we can do, 1 hour to 8 hours, and we can see, what it's going to bring back for us. Okay. And then we've got the time frame values that we can put in. So we've got transactions, a min and max, 24 hours, the 24-hour buys, what that may look like in terms of your minimum value and maximum value on the sells, minimum and max 24-hour volume. So what could that look like in 24 hours? I mean, we've seen tokens that have been able to go ahead and do millions, in their first few hours of trading. So that could also be an indicator, for a token that is getting a ton of attention, in terms of what you may put in here in terms of, buys and sells and even transactions. So for transactions, I may, want to see a token that's seen at least, 15,000 transactions minimum, which tells me that there is buy pressure, which tells me that there is interest. So these are all the kind of things you want to be thinking about when you're inputting, these values. That's the mindset. When you're seeing a ton of transactions, when you're seeing a ton of buys, that indicates that there may be hype around the token. That indicates there may be interest around that token. So, and if you're looking for, something where you want to avoid, the heavy sell pressure, maybe you're putting in, a bunch of sells minimum, in that 24-hour sells box, to indicate that, hey, you want to maybe buy the dip, so you're looking for, you're really looking to put in values that indicate a lot of sells, in that 24-hour, window. But for me, as far as sells are concerned, I would focus more on the 1 hour and the 5 minute personally, just because we know that in most tokens, when there is a big launch candle, there is inevitably going to be sells, so, and I want to, know when those sells are taking place. So I may focus, on that 5 minute, which we'll get to. All right. 6 hour transactions, buy, sells, volume, change, the same concept here. And I didn't go over change, in the 24-hour, but again, here we're just talking about price change. Did the change take, has there been like, I don't know, a 5%, increase, in the last 6 hours? Now, typically, if you're looking at, a change that would indicate, a positive change in a token, you don't want to be looking at, something like 5%. 5%, yes, it could indicate that it's the token's on an uptrend in terms of, the chart. But if you really want to see, something that I think is a stronger indicator, you probably want to be focusing more in the range of 15%, 15 to 20%, when it comes to, this change. And I wouldn't focus on 15 to 20% in the 6 hour. I would focus on 15 to 20% in the 5 minute. Okay, so if you look at 15 to 20% in the 5 minute, you're likely going to see some sort of, green candle. It may be, it's probably not going to be a tiny, wick. It's probably going to be a decent size, wick. Because again, that it's an indicator. It could indicate, that there is a bunch of buy pressure that's coming in, to that token for whatever the reason is. Maybe somebody called the token. Maybe somebody did a huge buy, maybe, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. Sometimes that can also indicate, some big change on the 5-minute candle. So that's another thing to think about, in terms of how do you use this area. I didn't go over the 1 hour, but again, conceptually, it's all the same, whether you're focusing on the 24-hour, the 6-hour, the 1 hour, or the 5-minute. Now, again, if you're looking for something that may be on the rise, I'm going to be focusing on the 5-minute. I may be focusing on a 5-minute, buy transaction area, where I want to see a minimum of $3,000, being purchased in the last 5 minutes, and I may set the max at 10,000, which means, somebody's buying in big. You're not going to get a bunch of those transactions, or at least I don't want to say you're not going to get a bunch of those transactions, but if somebody's buying in big, it could be 2 or 3 transactions before, it triggers, here in Dexscreener. So, or not necessarily before it triggers, but it could at least let you know early, as soon as you click apply, that, hey, there have been, some buys here that have, matched your parameters of at least $3,000 to $10,000. Now, as I'm reflecting on what I'm telling you, I know this is a lot to go ahead and take in. So I would encourage you to go back through this video, to review the video and think about what I'm telling you. Dexscreener is an amazing tool when it comes to being able to fine-tune your searches, but again, you can filter, through transactions, you can filter through buys, you can filter through sales, your volume, in the 5-minute and the change, as well. And you can do that here in the 1 hour, you can do it in the 6-hour, and you can do it in the 24-hour. And a lot of this stuff, it really is experimentation in terms of trying to target, what you're looking for. Okay. Now, when we do this from day to day, I'm not going to focus on, all the stuff down here. I'm just not going to. This is where it gets kind of advanced and complicated with folks. And I think, a lot of times, may go ahead and turn some folks off if they got to go ahead and go through all of this. For most of you, you want to just keep it pretty simple. So we're just going to go ahead and focus on this top area. We're going to focus on, we're not going to touch liquidity. I'm telling you that right now. We're going to leave it at $1,000. We're going to focus on the market cap range. We're going to focus on the pair age. And we're probably going to go ahead and do one thing here, and that's we may go ahead and focus on a change here in the 24-hour. Well, we're probably going to do that because I know that that's something that I do a lot of times in my own research. Okay. So with that being said, I'm not going to touch that change right now, just because I want you to see what it looks like after I click apply, and then I'm going to click on the change later to help you see, why I do put that change in there. Okay. So just to recap, okay, we're going to focus on this area. Okay. We're not going to go into all of this because this is, more for people that, want to get into more fine tuning, but again, the purpose of this video is really just to kind of give you an overview. And then when we start, focusing on, tokens day to day, it's going to be more of just focusing on this top portion and keeping it simple, and then just taking a look at some tokens, looking at the charts, the communities, and then, maybe making some notes, about what we're going to go ahead and watch, setting some alerts, and moving on from there. All right, so we're going to click apply right now. Okay, and so this is what we get. All right, now, why is it that we only have basically 10 tokens? All right, so let's go back to our filters real quick. Keep in mind, what were our parameters? Okay, 50K to 100K. All right, FDV, like I said, essentially the same as market cap, no difference. All right, pair age, 1 hour to 8 hours. So these are new tokens. Okay, and no other filters were applied. Okay, so we got 8 tokens that match, or what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It is 8. All right, so 8 tokens that match what we were looking for. Click apply. Okay, and on the 24-hour, you see where we've got, because I mentioned, adding a value for the change on the 24-hour. See where we've got negative 26.89, negative 4, negative 24, negative 29, and we've got a change here of a positive 4,500%, on this Tesla Monk token. We've got a negative 26, we got a negative 95 here, and a 636. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this is because, maybe you want to be made aware, of the tokens that have seen this kind of drop, in the last 24 hours. But keep in mind, that 24 hours, it hasn't actually been 24 hours. It's still applying to the fact that our filters, like I said, We only went to 8 hours on the max, right? But 8 hours on the max still counts as 24 hours because it hasn't been alive for 24 hours yet, but it's been alive for, as long as it's been alive. And so it still does count in that 24-hour window. So, and typically what I'll do is I'll come in here, and after I've set my filters, I'm going to click on the 24-hour because I want to go ahead and see which tokens have had the most gain, according to the filters that I've set. I don't really care about, market cap because I've already set what my market cap value, is. I don't want to see anything lower than 50, and I don't want to see anything higher than 100. Now, Dexscreener does auto update on its own. You do not have to refresh the screen. So as changes are being made, it will automatically update this information for you, which I think is absolutely fantastic when it comes to Dexscreener. A lot of times if you're using other tools, you may have to use like an add-on, for your browser to go ahead and auto refresh, or you may have to manually refresh. And a lot of times you can miss out on some opportunities if that's what you got to go ahead and do. Now you can see that Tesla coin, it's already gone, which means it auto updated, which means it probably either, and I don't remember what the market cap was, but it's now moved outside of our parameters, for our filters. So keep that in mind. Okay. So that's just some information there. I do like to see greens across the board, but I don't mind seeing some minuses because again, sometimes the minuses, if you look at the charts, can tell you, some different things about what may be going on, with that particular token. But we're going to open up a tab here. Okay. For this one, we're going to take a look, at this one as well. And we'll take a look at Apple Cap. Okay. We can see what's going on here with these charts. Anytime you see, and I'm glad this came up, anytime you see this token is freezable, okay, that means that's not good when they're highlighting this, with a red indicator. So this one means they can go ahead and basically scam you, okay? So we don't want to go ahead and mess with MAD, okay? Even though the chart looks okay and you got people that are buying in, this one's one we don't want to mess with, okay? So this one is off the table. And here we get essentially basically a rug. And you can also tell looking at the transactions here, like, yeah, this was one where you'd want to see more going on, than this, okay? And this is also, as I highlight, what we're going to do in terms of the filters, this is also the reason why. You typically don't want to look, at brand new, spanking new, tokens, because the likelihood, the likelihood that you could run into more scams is higher because they're super new, which is why I typically don't tend to look, at brand new tokens. So it's not saying that every token is going to fall into that category, but I'm glad that that's coming up, for the purposes of the video, so you can see that there is a higher likelihood that you're going to run into more scams, if you're focusing on tokens that are basically brand new. Okay, so in this chart right now, if we go ahead and right now we're on the 15-minute, but if I go ahead and I move to the 5, and for some of you that may not be familiar, I don't know who's watching this, whether you're brand new to crypto or whether you're seasoned, individual, just looking for a different perspective, on Dexscreener. But these are also helpful to kind of get you a better idea in terms of what's going on with the chart. Okay, so we can look at the 1 second. It gives us, more, more information in terms of, what's going on the transaction history in the chart. And we do get the transaction history here as well. So you can see buys and sells taking place. Obviously that indicates that there's a lot of activity taking place, on this token. The other thing I want to point out before I move into going back to this is that with Dexscreener, and it's always kind of been this way with Dexscreener, the market cap and FTV, they don't update right away. There are other platforms similar to Dexscreener where it does a much better job of updating right away, but Dexscreener has never been very good, at that. So what I tend to do is I tend to watch this, okay? Now, sometimes this is very much aligned with what you're seeing in terms of the market cap. And in this case, it's really not, but you're seeing the number move up, right? And we're seeing the wick move up if you've been looking at the chart as well. And obviously looking at this transaction history. So we're seeing a lot of this taking place, where, we got a lot of buys coming in. But like I said, we're seeing the number go up, but you're not seeing it go up as quickly as you are here. This is moving with each buy and sell. This is not. So just keep that in mind. There is a delay when you're looking at the market cap and FTV over here, as opposed to looking at what's going on over here. As the transactions are coming in, this is changing. This is not. So that is something very important to keep in mind. Now, we go to the 1 minute, we can see, how it changes the view, 5 minutes. And because again, this is a very new token, you typically don't want to be over here in the 15.1, in 4 hour and day, right? Because you can't see anything going on, which is why you want to be more over here in that 1 minute, 5 minute, sometimes 15, just depending on how long the token has been alive. But in this case, the 1 minute and the 5 minute make much more sense. Okay. So let's go ahead and also let you know that over here, if, for anybody that's not really familiar with Dexscreener, you can click on the banner here, so you can kind of see exactly, what's going on with the picture and the banner they put together. You can also get, the information where you can access the website, your Twitter, and their Telegram. If they have socials here or socials, it'll be highlighted, here. If they don't, then you won't see it here, usually. Okay, so sorry about that. That's my phone. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and go back on over here. So we opened up. Oh, and I'm glad this came back because I wanted to take a look at this. Okay, so this was the Tesla Monk, the one that had that 4,500% increase, and we can see that here. That's the other thing I want to point out. I'm going to change this real quick. Okay, that you can see additional information, over here. 5 minutes information. It tells you the transactions in the last 5 minutes. 6 transactions. This was the volume. You can see on the 1 hour how many transactions, the volume, and the makers is, unique wallets that bought or sold the pair. Okay, so it does give you that explanation there. Okay, and then on the 6 hour, same thing, and it gives you another breakdown of it over here. 24 hours, same thing. Okay, so the other thing I want to point out is if you head, further down, it also helps you understand just how long that token has been alive. Okay, this is something that I tend to like to pay attention to myself. All right, and then the other thing that we're going to go over is we're also going to cover alerts. Okay, so if you use Dexscreener, one thing that I find highly, highly useful is to utilize the alerts. Alerts, right here, you have to go ahead and click on enable notifications. Okay, so I'll click on that. And I'm going to click on allow. Okay, and I'm working, through Brave right now. Okay, but when you and we'll close this out so that you can see that without me having to go ahead and enable the alerts. Click on alerts. Okay, and then it gives you 3 options: price in USD, price in the native token, and then the market cap. I don't focus on USD. I don't focus on this. I focus on market cap. And I tend to set 2 alerts. Okay, so right now it's sitting at 23,000. 689. So I may want to set an alert for 35,000. Okay, and the reason, my thinking behind that is I want to see it get to a certain market cap that may indicate, again, we're focusing on indicators that may indicate that there's going to be an uptrend. Okay, sometimes we're right about this, sometimes we're not right about this. I'm also going to, so we're going to click on create alert. Okay, now when these alerts come in, especially if you're working on a desktop or a laptop, it'll give you the Dexscreener logo, and if it's in green, it means your alert for you wanting to see an uptrend in the market cap to hit a positive market cap, right? That'll be in green, and it'll show up in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. All right. When we set another alert, okay, this is when it goes under. Right now it's sitting at 23, right? So I want to, maybe I'm interested in knowing, if it gets to 15,000. All right. So typically I'm not going to go more than, I don't know. I guess if I was going to highlight like a percentage, maybe nothing more than maybe 20%, higher, lower, and that's just an arbitrary number I'm putting out there. Sometimes it's going to be more or less, I'm kind of fluid, when it comes to that in terms of the alerts that I'm setting. But for this, again, we're going to go ahead and say, 15,000. If it triggers under 15,000, I want to take another look at the chart and see what the chart looks like. And maybe I might decide to watch it, or maybe I might decide to go ahead and jump in. I don't know. It just depends. But again, a lot of watching these tokens, it's a fluid process, guys. So it's not a cookie cutter thing. Research is research. So you got to watch for patterns, and you do this long enough, you'll just kind of be able to, know what looks like an entry, for you, should you decide to go ahead and enter or not. Okay. And this is also going to be complemented, by what you may also see in the community. Maybe there's some catalyst that they've got coming, that may make sense for you to go and jump in, on the dip. I don't know. It just, again, there's a number of things you want to go and take a look at, beyond just what you're doing in Dexscreener. So we're going to create this alert. Okay. So here we go. The alert's going to, let me know when it slips under 15,000. All right. Now, keep in mind, when the alerts are triggered, it's going to say disabled. And when that happens, if you want to come back in, your alert's still going to be here. Okay, it's just not going to be active anymore. You can decide to edit that alert. You can decide to reactivate that alert, or you can decide to delete it. Okay, so you do get those options. You can also add a note as well, if you want to. I never use this, but that's just me. So, but again, you get the price in USD. You can get a notification for that. The price stuff is always wonky to me. I don't ever understand it. I'm just being honest with you. So it's just much faster when I want to go ahead and set alerts, not to go ahead and worry about what it is in the native token, but what it is on the market cap. And that's just the easiest thing, for me. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and X out of that. And we can see it's dipping, right now, which is not uncommon for new tokens. So, but whether it's going to come back up, because a lot of times, when you see this kind of stuff, it leads to panic selling, and it's probably going to dip even further. Okay. That's just kind of my experience, coming through as far as, all the different charts that I've watched, over time. But this is also why sometimes I tend to focus on tokens that have been able to be alive, for at least 24 to 48 hours, because this is probably going to, dip, probably under 20K in my personal opinion. And at that point, you lose buy pressure, right? So do people really want to go ahead and buy into a chart that looks like it's bottomed out? It depends. I mean, and even though we get this, $1,100 buy, this looks like somebody bought in and they just sold right away, so what are they trying to do? Are they trying to, was this a MEV-bot transaction? And if you don't know what that is, I'm not going to explain it to you. Just go ahead and look it up, or maybe I might explain it, in another video. But either way, a lot of times, sometimes, if you're not, using anti-MEV protection, if you're using a bot, you can get MEV'd, which basically means that, I know I'm explaining this and I said I wasn't going to. It basically means that, your buy is now much higher than it should have been and you've lost money. So, but either way, I'm not really going to go ahead and continue to go into that. So we're going to go back to cat, or the Apple cat. So the other thing that I wanted to do, because I know that this video is getting a little long, or at least longer than I anticipated, we're going to check out their Telegram, okay? Because the chart doesn't look bad. It looks like, there might be an indicator here, of an uptrend. So we're going to go into Telegram. We're going to see what's going on in Telegram. Now, I want to highlight, that whenever you click in Dexscreener to go to Telegram or an outside link, they do give you, this warning, right? Okay. Beware of phishing scams, protect your wallet, when in doubt, stop, that yada, yada, yada. Okay. So with that being said, you can click don't show the warning again. I probably will, just for the sake of the video, or you can just go ahead and click on, continue to Telegram. So click on that. We'll continue over to Telegram, and it's going to open up a link for us. I'm going to say open Telegram desktop because I already have Telegram installed. All right, so here we go. And just as usual, you get a portal. You don't always get a portal, when you're checking out some of these tokens, on Dexscreener, but in this case, we get a portal. So we're going to tap to verify. I'm going to go ahead and, clear out, the rest of these. All right, we're going to click on start, and then we get a link here to go ahead and jump into the Apple Cat community. So here we go, and it's welcoming me, Crimson Tide owner, Crimson Calls. Okay, and I got to click to prove that I'm human. You don't always have to do this, but in this case, it's telling us to do that. Now, typically when I jump into a Telegram, the first thing that I'm going to look at is, it's going to be a couple of things. All right, I'm going to look at pinned messages, and I want to know when the last buy took place. Okay, so looks like they're doing some raids, for more exposure. All right, they've got major bots, trending. Okay, so the last buy took place at 9:38. It's 9:40 according to my clock, so a couple of minutes ago. Okay, when was the buy before that? 9:38. Okay, so they are getting, some fairly frequent, buys, right? So what I don't want to see is basically like 10 or 15 minutes in between buys. Okay, you want to see some level of buy pressure, but even if there are maybe 10 to 15 minutes between buys, there could, it could be a very strong community, where they don't really care if there's not a ton of buys right now. Maybe they're waiting on something to happen from the team that may indicate that, hey, this, lull in the, as far as like buy pressure, it's only going to be, short-lived, so you just don't know. You have to also take a look at what's going on in the community to assess, research, whether this has potential to move beyond whatever you're seeing in Dexscreener, beyond whatever you're seeing on the chart. So taking a look at the pinned messages, it looks like we got 5 or 6 pinned messages. And I'm looking here to go ahead and see like what's the owner talking about, what's being said that may indicate that, whether this looks attractive as a token to get into or not. Okay, so use Apple Count with a meme and include the CA with Apple to get exposure from the doggy influential list. Okay, that didn't really tell me much. All right, guys, as a CTO, we got to work as a community. Okay, so this is indicating from one of the admins they need the community to continue to help to push the token. I don't always see that as a positive, just because in crypto, let's face it, you got a lot of people that would rather just go ahead and sit around and watch everybody else work than actually, help to push and work for their own bags. That seems to be, one big issue in a lot of tokens, that a lot of people just want to rely on the work of others to see their investment grow, and they really don't want to have any, as they say, skin in the game. So it's more helpful to see a team that's really got a plan, that's regardless of what the community does, hey, we're going to go and we're going to push this thing. So keep that in mind. It's not a, it's not one of those things where, hey, if they say, let's work as a community, that the token is doomed. It's not that. I'm just saying that sometimes when you see that, especially if you don't really have a lot of hype in a token, it really just kind of indicates the downfall of the token, sometimes. So, okay, if we look at 4, okay, so we already saw that. And we're looking at, community trending, just some voting, where they're encouraging people to go ahead and, provide votes, so that they can go ahead and get trending, through MajorBot. Okay, so we need somebody wanting to make a Twitter. Okay, and again, this is a CTO, so it's a CTO, it's a community takeover, which means obviously they need, they need community engagement, right? So that's the whole point behind a CTO. But, even as we've been going through this, we see that there have been 28 new messages. Is that just people coming into the chat? What is it? So there we go. And in that 28 messages, we don't have a buy. So keep that in mind. That's also something that works into whether this is going to be an attractive token to look at or not. Now, for me personally, I would want to go back, and we're going to close this out. I want to go back to this one, and we can see when we left, we were looking at an uptrend. Now we're looking at a downtrend, and part of that is when buys kind of dry up, people kind of get a little concerned, so they start selling. Unless you're just somebody with high conviction in that token, and you decide, hey, maybe I'm not going to go ahead and leave. Now, the other thing that I want to highlight here is that for this one we haven't set any alerts. Okay, so where are we at on the market cap? This is saying 78. This is saying 77. I believe this is, this is 77. So we're going to set some alerts. And the other thing about the alerts is that even regardless of whether we're not sure what the actual market cap is, it's going to tell us here in the alert. So we're sitting at 78. Okay, so let's see here. And I think this is probably going off of what it's showing here instead of what it's showing here, because now this is showing 76, which is the correct market cap. All right, so here, I think is an indicator, I'm thinking I want to see this go over, I don't know, 90K. 90, oops. And by the way, you can't put 90K in here. I've tried it before, it doesn't work. You have to use the numbers. So I'm going to put 90K in here because I think that if it can get to 90, that might, and again, I'm not guaranteeing anything, guys, it might indicate an uptrend, okay? So that's the first alert I'm going to set. And then I'm also going to set an alert for if it goes under 50. If it goes under 50, and like I said, if I like the token and it goes under 50, I may want to take another look at the chart. I may want to go back into the Telegram, see what's going on there. and make some kind of evaluation as to whether I want to continue to watch or take it as an opportunity to possibly pick up some tokens. Okay, so this is just a taste of what we're going to go through as far as looking at Dexscreener, looking at tokens. And like I said, when I go ahead and fire up, the video day by day, we're just going to open up some tabs and we're going to take a look at some charts. We're going to take a look at some communities, see what's going on, and we're going to set some alerts and we're going to see what we can find. And we're not just going to focus on Solana. We're going to look at Ethereum as well. And there may be days where I do it individually. There may be days where I just go ahead and go into the filters and decide, look, I'm going to check off both of these. And when I do that, I no longer get, the DEX option. And then when I apply that, it's going to give us, you can see this indicates Uniswap. Okay, so you can see it's indicating that we're looking at now both, the Ethereum and Solana tokens. The other thing that I probably will do, I'll probably go ahead and set, like a indicator, not for volume, for the change of at least 10%. And we're not going to focus on, the 1 hour to 8 hour. We're going to change that up from day to day. Tomorrow we may go ahead and look at something that's going to be more along the lines of, it had to be alive for at least 24 hours, but you can see that when we change this, we're no longer seeing anything in the negatives on the 24-hour percentage. We're looking at tokens that have only been in the positive, as far as their price change over the last 24 hours. And that's typically one of the things that I like to do as I'm doing research, for new targets that I like to focus on. Now, keep in mind, now that we're nearing the end of this video, because I'm not going to go ahead and record much longer than this. And I know that I've spoken kind of quickly, so that's why I say, please be sure if this is something that's of interest to you and you want to learn more about this, you got to go back and review the video, because there's going to be stuff that as I went through that you're probably going to want to hear again. But we're going to go ahead and do this as often as I can, day to day. And if I can't, because I know obviously the holidays are coming up, so there's going to be some time where I'm not going to be able to get on to do a video. But if I can get on to do a video, I'm going to get on to do a video, likely in the morning, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at some tokens and see what we can find, on the Solana chain and on the Ethereum chain. Now, my first thought in doing these videos is I'm just going to record the video and upload it, and then maybe we might get to a point where, maybe we can go ahead and do a live and see if there's, some interest, in me doing that, with people, on the live. To go ahead and take a look at some tokens in real time. Okay. But with that said, I hope you guys got something out of it. I like looking at Dexscreener. This is something that I do every day. And I just tend to think that, you don't necessarily need to follow an influencer, to basically show a token to you that more than likely they've already bought into, and you are basically just, pumping their bags, so I'm trying to go ahead and, help people understand how to use Dexscreener. I want that to be, basically a new direction, for the channel, to help you understand, how to use it and help you maybe identify some tokens, as we go through this, that may be emerging tokens that, maybe, we're getting an early entry and it could go ahead and do some numbers. Because like I said, we looked, at the Crimson's cost channel, earlier in the video. This was found in Dexscreener. I found it at 499K, which that's a little higher on the market cap for me, honestly, but yeah, I found it and I looked at the activity going on in the Telegram and it was like, hey, I think this may have a chance to move. And quite honestly, the token actually did retrace, a few times, after I called it. But there was so much interest, in that token that it eventually just went ahead and took off. And like I said, sometimes we're going to get it right, sometimes we don't. But in this case, that worked out, so, and that's not the only one I've called, some other ones, on X, that did well. Yellow Pepe was one that I called pretty early on. That did, I think it was under 200,000 that I called that one, and that one went to 5 million. That was also found in Dexscreener. So this can be a powerful tool. You just need to know how to use it. And I want to, create content that's going to help people learn how to use Dexscreener. So hopefully, you can come back and visit Investment Honey and look at the Crimson call channel. Share this with a friend if you got somebody that's interested in learning about tokens and wants to try to find. I don't ever like to say hey, we can use Dexscreener to find the next big meme coin. But Dexscreener, it covers all the tokens. So it is really your place to find the next, meme coin that could actually take off. So, all right. But with that said, guys, that's going to do it for me on this one. Remember, we don't give you any investment advice on this channel. We just give you information. And, it's up to you to go ahead and use that information, as you see fit. So thanks again for tuning in, and you guys enjoy the rest of your day.